So yeah, we're here with Mark, who's one of the partners at Wagstaff's Accountants. I came across Mark through a recommendation by Craig, a solicitor, and the only reason we came across was because I asked Craig, I said, Craig, look, I'm looking for an accountant, but someone who's switched on, like someone I can talk to, like on the same wavelength, rather than typical accountants that talk a lot, but there's not a lot of essence in it. So that's how we met Mark, and from the first meeting, it's like literally that's what the case is. We're on the same wavelengths. Whenever we talk about so many things like investments and so on. But let's go to the very beginning. How did you become an accountant? How did it all start?
For me, long story short, is my father had a number of businesses over the years, and to be honest, I kind of came across accountants, old-fashioned ones, pitched themselves here. And kind of talk down to clients, and it seemed like when the business was doing really well, the accountant is always there, the kind of guys that give you an umbrella when the sun's out.
Okay.
When the damage was done, and my father's had one of the businesses really did struggle in the late 1980s, sadly ended up going under, and when he needed support from an accountant, wasn't there. But then I've always been a little bit interested in a bit of ducking and diving. I like a bit of business, so, yeah, kind of trying to make money. There's ways to do it. And I thought, well, kind of mix it all together. So be supportive, pitch yourself at the same level as your clients, but actually enjoy what you're doing as well. And I've kind of just sort of wanted to bring a different level to the profession, rather than talking down to your clients.
It really amazes me how much like passion you have for what you do. I mean, it's really surprising. Do you reckon it's the same with others?
Probably not. Sometimes people sort of fall into the profession. Some people have come in from different backgrounds, different degrees, and it sort of just seems to be something they're settled at. But I don't know, it's just having a little bit of drive, and where do you want to get to? So sometimes they're sort of like, I'm happy to coast along. And for me, it's just about, I want to make a difference. I want to be better tomorrow than I am today, always, and want to find out new stuff, new ways of doing things. And I think that's the difference, probably.
Yeah, we can definitely see that.
A bit wild. Not your
So going back again to the beginnings, when did you decide you're going to be an accountant, and what was your journey?
I was about 11, maybe a bit younger, 10, wow. Something like that. So just at junior school, really, and then kind of ended up going up into high school. And we used to have don't laugh at this, we used to have a television programme years ago called Minder, and the lead character was Arthur Daly, and it was a likeable kind of, I wouldn't call him a rogue, but there was a different element, should we say, but it was always about trying to do a deal. The simple way is you need to make money.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing a little bit of that. My first major breakthrough in the business world was buying and selling key rings to kids, and then stress monitors to kids. And I thought, this is quite good. My dad was running the company at the time and what have you. And I kind of got into the whole marketing side of things. I quite like that. I like the numbers. And it is pretty basic when you think about it, isn't it? Just get your pricing right, get your costs right, and hey presto, you deliver a good product. Should be able to make money. Not rocket science.
Yeah. But then, I mean, there's so much like a businessman in you. But you here are a partner, and how did that happen? Because the company was set up in 1948,
correct,
as far as
yeah.
The information on the website shows.
That's
so
exactly
how
right.
did you make that transition?
Yeah, so again, ended up going to university, did a business studies degree with corporate finance based in London. So I graduated 1996, so 25 years this year, not that I'm counting. Don't look that old, I know.
I know, I've got the same, like I've graduated like 20 years ago. I'm like, bloody hell, 20
I
years.
still use the same calculator, so that
Actually,
makes
you
a
called it a
difference.
video recently.
Seriously, I think this needs to be in the video. Yeah, I ended up doing that degree, and at the time I got to dissertation year last year, so a 4-year course I did for mine with a sort of year work experience, and I was looking for work. So I basically said my target for Easter is to write out to about 100 companies, local ones and London-based ones, and there were merchant banks in there as well, to be fair. And I just needed to be employed so I could just have that last term at uni and then start work straight away in July. I'm lucky I found this place. Wagstaff's was small, 3 partners, turnover was about 1 and a bit million, about 20 staff total, and it was just based in the high street, not in this building but just in the high street.
Still Stevenage.
Yeah, still local. It's about 15-20 minutes from home, so I thought, you know what, work-life balance would be perfect. like the people, and I kind of thought, you can actually do something here. You can actually, if you progress, you could literally take it all the way and then become master of your own destiny and drive it. So the reason why I selected here, one, they were obviously looking to recruit. Second thing is that I like the legacy. And the legacy is they've been long established, so brand awareness was already quite strong locally. And then there's a huge untapped market. So you kind of think, well, I've studied all the theory, let's put it into practice. So hey presto, I've been very lucky. Here, built my own network from scratch, worked with some of the existing clients that were here, but yeah, just built everything from scratch really for me. But just on the platform that we already had to go with. So, we're now, again, candidly, we're about just over 3 million turnover and we're 47 staff. So we've grown quite a bit. And we have a lot of international work as well. And one of my big things is just the world is a small place.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't be blinkered by borders and boundaries. You can do anything from anywhere. And I guess COVID's proved that in many ways, hasn't it? So
yeah, definitely. And how did you make the move from joining the company to becoming a partner? Because obviously you've sort of reached the top.
Yeah, well, you say you've reached the top, but you shouldn't stand still. I think that's the problem that some people have, is that you become partner and you go, well, what next? Well, what next is literally you've got to set yourself little goals and targets along the way. So whether it be turnover, whether it be growing the business, just enjoying the job you do and do something different. So I've got a few irons in the fire with other things as well. I've some crazy ideas from an accountancy practice. Wait till you see our new website, which should launch on Thursday actually.
Thursday.
1st of April.
Look out for that.
Yeah, it's a slightly different theme, and it does what it says on the tin. So the brief there, I know I digress, I'll come back on point, I promise. But the brief there was stand out from the herd. So, because we are different, I strongly believe we're different. So I wanted our website and branding to kind of just look very different. You wouldn't think we're advertising an accountancy practice.
Good, we like that.
Might be more like a zoo, but not an accountancy practice. But yeah, coming back to the journey, number one is you sign a training contract, which is minimum 3 years. So you go from the transition from degree level through to your professional studies. So it takes you 2 to 3 years to get an ACA qualification. And for me, I wanted the ACA because it gives you opportunities to do whatever. I think people also take you a little bit more seriously once you've got your letters after your name, for whatever reason. You can still do the same job, but I think it's a piece of paper that says, well, you can do it. So had to do that. The next progression is within the business is just making the transition from like audit junior, because I was just a basic audit junior, through audit semi-senior, audit senior, audit manager, and then looking at a broader portfolio, not just audit bias, but just everything. So all in, I became partner. I was just 31. So from 9 years, So it took me 9 years to come from degree at 22 to 31. So really young, one of the youngest, if not the youngest partner they've had here. Just to prove that if you're ambitious enough, age is a number, isn't it?
But then you mentioned that being at the top is not the best, because then the question is what's next? So what's next for you, in apart from like growth, or what is your plan for the business? Personally,
I want to continue to grow here. So I think, it's surrounding ourselves with good quality people. I'd like to say that we are a people business. We recognise we're more of a people business than your common or garden, really boring, dull accountancy practice. But you need the specialist skills that go with it. And I actually think we've got a good mix now of partners and managers here that we can really continue to build. So the brand is already strong, and I just want to kind of take it to that next level. So as ambitious as it sounds, I want to get from 3 million to 5 million. And then maybe, dare I say, if it's within a time horizon, there could be a possible exit. But I've got no plans on doing that anytime soon.
What time scale have you allowed for? Between 3 and 5?
Yeah, 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, which I think if it takes 10 years, I'm doing something wrong.
But then isn't the easiest way to achieve that through an acquisition?
Correct. So that's, at the moment, genuinely something we've got an eye on. So, from an independent wealth management business, maybe a small one, just to get a foothold back in that industry. And maybe another couple of one small local practice, because again our profession is blessed with people of a certain age, and not a lot of youngsters coming up who want to take the challenge, so that succession plan is a big issue. Now is a perfect time. If the opportunity comes along, we'll have a look at it.
But then with your business drive, don't you want to be that large company that hoovers up all these small accounting companies?
I think we can get to 3 to 5 as a combination of, absolutely, possibly the right acquisition, because you have to be careful not to get the wrong one, because that can cost us a lot of time, money,
I know something about
blood,
that.
sweat and tears. Well, you and everyone else. I think it always sounds easy, it looks wonderful, and then you get into it and I think the right acquisition I won't dismiss, but in the meantime I think there's so much more we can do for existing clients that you can grow anyway. So the key for me is I'd rather focus on what we've got first, and really just lock in and consolidate that position before the acquisition, because it's client care, it's all driven by that.
Yeah, and unfortunately it happens very often where when the top management focuses on acquisition, they forget about their day-to-day business, and that starts to fail. Yeah,
because if you think about it, like you've already mentioned, you'd like to do business with me. So the day that you call up and then you do it again and again and again and again, and I can't get hold of this guy anymore, you've lost something. So for me, I think it's the fact that we're selling ourselves. I mean, as bad as that may sound, we are selling ourselves, aren't we? So you're buying people.
How about the work-life balance? Because then if you've got too many people calling you, then suddenly how does that work?
Well, on a personal note, I probably would confess to being a little bit of a workaholic, but I enjoy it. So it's slightly difficult and complicated personal circumstances that probably allow where I am at the moment. So just, no point complaining.
I've been there myself, so I know sometimes work is just sort of a way to sort of relieve the stress.
Yeah, well, I kind of enjoy it, but it's a challenge, especially the last 12 months. And again, to put into context where we are, the last 12 months has probably been the most challenging that I've faced, as well as everyone else, but it's probably going to be our best year. And the only reason I'd say that is we've worked bloody hard, as has everyone else, and we've been bloody lucky as well.
And I think it's lucky.
I just think just being adaptable, being adaptable, kind of seeing there was an issue probably coming all the way back in January. Because you kind of say, well, this is going to go one way, so let's get the IT in place now, just in case you get to this stage of lockdown, because it was really early just being talked about how bad this could get. So we did that. We were lucky enough to, have everyone working from home. But me being me, I sort of thought, well, I actually will come into the office because the phone will still ring, the post will still need to be dealt with. There's something
special about coming into the office.
It's the switch. I think the problem is nothing has changed. In your mind, nothing's changed. So everything's the same. I think where some of the mental health issues have affected people is everything's different. But if you kept the same routine, weirdly still dressed except the tie, still going to the office, nothing changed. And a lot of people were, and we picked up quite a lot of work actually in the last 12 months, simply because we've been open. We've been around and we're still meeting people.
But is it new businesses being set up?
No, it's new clients.
New clients,
maybe a couple of new businesses, but mainly like existing established businesses that just weren't serviced well. Simply because I can't get hold of the accountant. They won't come out and see me. I need to talk to them now. And you kind of go, we're open, come talk to us. I'll even come over to your office. Not a problem. So I think that's where we've been lucky.
Now, do you have many sort of employees working from the office or from home?
Yeah, I think what has probably happened, if we probably take a step back, maybe 18 months, 2 years, one of the things we were looking to introduce, and we did, is sort of flexi time. We opened up the office, get this, an hour earlier than normal and kept it open an hour later than normal. So kind of kept the lunch the same, but just flexed around a bit of time. And I think the next stage with technology was around, well, actually, you don't need to be in the office to actually be able to deliver the work, provided you get the task complete. It doesn't matter where you are. So I think all that's happened with COVID is probably just pushed that forward a bit. So I think this is now here to stay. The hybrid model will be here. It's not for everyone. I think some people, it's probably fair to say, can't work at home.
That's why they need air offices.
Correct. So I think genuinely some people just can't work at home, and other people can work at home, but I still think you need the human touch as well, especially for meetings. Looking at the whites of people's eyes, I think is good. And come on, let's not beat about the bush. Humans are social animals, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you going to remove the social aspect of everyday life? It won't work. So I think most people are craving to get back in front of people, I think. So we're probably about half, about 50% or so, something like that of our staff are here at any one time. So I think there's
probably 25 or something is as much as we've had.
If it stays like this, will you get rid of some of the office space you have?
That's a big question, because the problem is we signed our 10-year lease, or extended it 3 years ago. So we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place. However, we can make it a bit more flexible in here. We've got a lot of wasted space, to be honest, where we've got a lot of the old-fashioned files, which they need to go anyway. I mean, there's no way in this 21st century we need all those paper things anymore, so we can get them scanned and got rid of. So potentially we can create a couple more office spaces. So again, we can encourage a bit of that.
At least you've got space for growth.
Yeah, well, that's always how we've seen it. So we've kind of shrunk the desk sizes down over the years. You know, we used to have this could be like a grand desk, couldn't it? But they've just been cut right back to the bare bones. Lead by example, and we've squeezed more people in anyway. So it's surprising how many fit in our office already. But yeah, it's kind of worked. So I think there's still more room to expand. And I think, you know, the meeting rooms give a bit of extra flexibility as well. So probably see that staying or changing.
And when it comes to customers or people running businesses, what are the biggest mistakes that they make? Like from your perspective, when you look at it, it's like, oh my God, these people just don't know what they're doing. What would you point out?
It's the obvious. It's the obvious one at the moment is taking too much cash out of the business, not changing and adapting their lifestyles to suit the current circumstances. And sometimes, in all cases, you have to start with yourself. If things are going a little bit awry, rein it back in. So I think, you know, I'd honestly say maybe it's a little bit zen of me. You know what you need to survive. Nothing more, nothing less. Everything else is a bonus. If people get into that mindset, and then happy days, you can trim it back because it doesn't matter. I think the problem is people then just keep chasing these pipe dreams and take more and more money out of the business and then suddenly can't afford it. So if you lose 10% of your customer base, hey presto, you're buggered, especially if you're carrying on to draw the same. So that's mistake number one. I think mistake number two is the easiest bit, is just doing too much. So, you know, where their core focus is just, I'm not saying don't just stick with your core focus, but pay special attention to your core focus and don't go above and beyond that, really. If you can, then maybe spin it out into another company, maybe get some more expertise in, whatever it might be, but just keep your core business as your core business. And then I think, you know, the third and probably the most critical mistake is not surrounding yourself with good quality people, brighter individuals than yourself. I mean, I've been lucky with that one. Again, I always sort of think that the most successful businessman is someone who employs brighter people than themselves and manages them, and then you can do great things. It's not just about one individual, but you need to be a bit Henry V as well and lead from the front. That's probably my view, as opposed to hiding on the golf course, which is what a lot of people do. So you lose touch. So that's probably the top three.
How about financial literacy? How would you summarize business owners?
A mixed bag. Some are very bright, and some clearly are not accountants. So what I try to do is adapt the message. So I think, you know, it is horses for courses. Sometimes people just don't get numbers, so you just break it down. Some people just are so hell-bent driven by tax as well. They don't really care. It's how much tax am I going to pay? So the kind of conversations you might have with someone is to say, well, you've got no tax to pay this year. Oh, okay, that's brilliant. Yeah, but that's because you've not made any money. Okay, that's not so good. So it is a little bit about just making sure people's focus is right. So, you know, it is improving the bottom line, it is improving the turnover, but more importantly, it's about, you know, maximising your net profit percentages, really, because that's how you pay your bills. Quite simple. And don't worry about the tax, it's 19%, well, soon to be 25%, but it is what it is. You can manage that to a point, but don't worry about it. I'd rather have the bigger number.
And out of the whole scope of services, which one do you prefer most?
Of mine, I love them all. I mean, you'd expect me to say that. I'd love them all. I guess the passion is more the consultancy stuff, the consultancy and the corporate finance work. You know, compliance work is bread and butter, and you should never take that for granted, because that does pay the bills. But the sexy end of accounting is the acquisitions, the disposals, the asset finance, you know, the debt finance, whatever it might be. But then talking to people about the business and working on a strategy for either growth or just profit maximisation, because you can see the results. So that's the pleasing thing, you can actually see the results.
And is it now time to buy businesses or to try sell your business?
Depends where you are in your cycle. for some people, they may well say now's the time to exit, but you might not necessarily get the price you want, because there's deals to be done. But yeah, for a lot of retirees, it may well be this is the last straw that's just said, you know what, I've had enough now. But at the other end is a buyer's market, so there's deals to be done. So I think that's the important thing. It really does depend on where you are in that cycle. So if you're keen to buy, then yeah, I'd be saying there's deals to be done, especially with the COVID umbrella, because you can play the game a little bit that says, touching on what we talked about earlier, the 2019 numbers, that's history. You've had the toughest year you probably had for a year or 3 or 5 or your life. How quick is it going to recover? Question mark. So there's deals to be done around that.
Yeah, but they tend to sort of follow Rishi Sunak's phrase where the economy is going to bounce back in a V-shape form, and then unfortunately that's my experience, where they just say, yeah, it's going to go back to pre-COVID levels, just like that.
Yeah, of course. I don't think so, personally. I think in certain sectors they may well find it could rebound, but I don't think, generally speaking, it's going to be as quick as everyone else gives it credit for. Again, on a personal basis, I genuinely think we've not seen the worst of the unemployment figures yet. The other thing about unemployment that people forget about is we had a lot of EU migrants going back home. So when our unemployment data is published, don't forget it's not quite as bad. So we should be looking at the posts that have been lost as opposed to people claiming the benefits, which is quite a fundamental thing actually with the statistics.
Yeah, because they say it's like over 1 million people.
Yes. So when they also then talk about the next stage is, and again I can attest to this, we've got clients who have furloughed staff. As soon as the free money bit runs out at the end of June, as soon as clients have to start to contribute the 10%, they're going to be waving goodbye to staff. So I think unemployment is not topped out yet. I think I did read in some kind of statistic the other day that said it could be about 8 to 8.5% unemployment rate, which doesn't surprise me. Now on the flip side, this is where I think there's opportunities, is we need to go back to some kind of, again I'll put my soapbox away in a minute, basis for changing the education system to suit business, and business may well see a bit of a renaissance in engineering and manufacturing and the skills, because I think there's a huge gap there. Again, mix that with, dare I say, a lot of the migrant labour that's gone back. Start with the obvious, the construction industry in every sector. Or every aspect of the construction industry, there's gaps. So straight away I'm kind of going, well, why not then rejig the education system to kind of go back to skills colleges, right the way back to 11, 12, 13-year-olds. It works in Europe. Academics go the academic route, other people go to the skills route, because that's where business needs them. And success of education is employment, isn't it? Upskilling the workforce. Maybe we'll see a renaissance in engineering as well. I have to say, again, a lot of clients have seen a lot more inquiries over the last 12 months or so, bringing things back to the UK. So again, there's that need for skills, because your average engineer is about 50 plus. There's a succession issue there. So how do we bring in youngsters? And it's a numbers game, getting the attitude right as well. So, so I think there's opportunities for sure. I hope.
Okay. Now, I know you also invest in various assets, so any top tips in that respect?
Well, the weirdest thing, I kind of got back into, as you know, pharmaceutical industry. So mainly on the AIM market. I got very lucky in the last 12 months.
Oh, I guess it's not just luck, it's doing the right due diligence.
Yeah, but there's also a couple of commentators that I tend to follow a little bit as well. So you can tend to find a couple of things that they'll suggest, but then you're going around and doing your own homework.
So who are the people you tend to follow?
Yeah, mainly the main one is a chap called Zach Meir. So he specialises in AIM. He's basically there's something called Share Talk. And he's a journalist for Share Talk. He'll pick out sort of some top tips just based off their bulletin boards, because a lot of them will have these like bulletin boards just saying what's happening. It's an exciting industry, but the AIM market is a bit of a bandit country as well, because you can lose money just as quickly as you can make it. So I think it's investing sensibly, being a bit fleet of foot. If you want sort of long-term things, and again I'm looking at this kind of stuff anyway, it's like Standard & Poor's 500 index fund. Not sexy, but it'll continue to grow. But if you want higher risk, hopefully higher return stuff, then go for the individual stocks. So I think maybe now's the time to come out and look at the oil industry, the fuel industry, the extractive industries again, just because demand is going to start to wake up. And the small issue they had in the Suez Canal as well probably helped a little bit there. So with a bit of a tanker that I think he forgot to where he put his beer, took the eye off the wheel and
Is that
crashed.
the case? I
No,
thought it was
only
winds. No, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
maybe you should lead the investigation team.
Yeah, that's it.
Suggest that
Where's
to
the
them.
beer? Oh, yeah. So, but I still can't understand how he got that. I mean, slightly wrong because it's a fairly big old tanker. So, well, I say tanker or a container ship.
It takes 20,000 containers. I mean, I just sort of stuck on that number. I just thought 20,000 trucks on the road.
Yes.
20,000 drivers have a job as soon as he reaches the docks. It's just
I mean, imagine the
mind-blowing.
weight, just the pure weight of what's in those containers as well. I
But
mean,
I've done the calcs yesterday because I just thought, well, how come there's only that bit below the water and that much
Yeah.
above? But actually it does stack up because it's
Yeah, the
400
buoyancy.
meters long,
yeah.
59 or so meters wide, and then the depth 20 something meters, and it all adds up.
But they said, I think it's got stuck on rocks or something. I think they've found rocks in the path somehow. And if you go back, I was looking at the map on this, the amount of time that's saved just by going through the Suez Canal compared to obviously all the way around the Cape of Good Hope and all that takes us back to a myth that was Ferdinand Magellan looking for the East-West Passage. But if you do your history, you'll find out he didn't actually make the full journey. He did not circumnavigate the globe because he was killed in the Philippines.
Okay.
So he's next in charge actually circumnavigated the globe. Juan Sebastian Elcano, I believe his name was. Could be wrong, but
Okay. At least we learned something.
there you go. Every day's a school day.
Yeah, but unfortunately, I mean, the Suez Canal and together with Brexit and the backlog of deliveries and so on, is just going to cause chaos in the whole sort of import and exporting world.
But I think the paperwork is still, obviously the clients have still got issues with backlogs anyway. Was with some engineers last week and they actually said for no apparent reason whatsoever, goods were sent to Liverpool and they were still held there at portside, and you kind of go, why? No idea, no one knows. So I think there are those kind of issues. I think it will be, and I've said this to people anyway, 6 to 12 months minimum just before the efficiencies kick in, because it won't be down to politicians, it'll be down to businesses to make it happen. So I think that's the key, is just when is it going to happen? So I think it'll be businesses that drive it. But dare I say, of late, putting politics slightly back on the front foot here, I think the EU of late have shone themselves in a very bad light of just how over bureaucratic they are. And I've said, whilst I disagree with Brexit, what I do agree with is, kind of streamlining the decision-making process is just so bureaucratic. Nightmare. So they do need to go back to basics, I think. And that's going to change overnight, is it?
No, unless they do another Brexit.
Well, you never know. It depends on, I guess people are using the vaccine argument for a moment, but parking that aside, if you look at tourism, so European tourism, imagine if you're Greece at the moment and your whole economy, but the bulk of the economy is reliant on tourism. Southern Italy, reliant on tourism. Spain,
it's the second year they're going to be affected.
Even France, the skiing industry. A buddy of mine in France was telling me, I think that could have cost France 3 billion just for the ski season being cancelled, which on average, I think he said worked out to be about €100 a head per person in France. Huge cost. You can't afford to do it again then. So I think it's time that, somehow there needs to be, okay guys, you've got to live with it now. I'm not sure how Europe legislates for that. But the sooner they do it, the better for those countries. So could that be the catalyst for more discontent, should we say? So will Greece say, we'd like to exit? Probably can't afford it, small detail of slight debt there, but I think there's going to be issues. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see. So going back to Wagstaff's, what do you think were your best decisions, like best business decisions made?
Best business decisions, I think number one is I think invest in good people. I think that is key for us. I mean, we spend a lot of time on recruitment. There may be 3 or 4, interviews, to be honest, because they have to fit in with the team. So I think that's
3 or 4 before you actually offer them the job.
Correct. Yeah. So we are quite the technical phrase coming up anal with our recruitment. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll put them in front of a couple of partners to start with, then the other partners, then the managers, and then the team they're going to work with. because
And
ultimately
does the
they've
team
got
have
fit
to
in.
say they can say sorry, we don't like?
Yeah, 100%. So you visualise, will they be able to work with a client, and likewise, will they be able to work in the team? Especially with the larger audit assignments, you've got to go there with someone. So if you
That's the way to do it.
yeah, exactly that. So I think that's a decision. The other thing is, I wouldn't say we're perfect with technology, but we're all right. So I think our rolling program of continuing upgrading the software and the hardware is probably a good thing. I think the other thing is really just business decision wise is just networking, just actually getting your basics right. Many ways like karate. If you can't get your basics right, you can't do the clever stuff. So
and why did you mention karate?
Because I love karate, as you know perfectly well.
So what colour belt are you?
I'm a second Dan black belt, training for my third Dan. Yeah. So, but yeah, it's good for this.
Yeah.
But it does give you that focus as well, and positivity, and I think you need it. So it's just like a release. But there's a lot of the messages that come out of it when you get into the philosophy side. It's not just kicking people. Occasionally you do that too. But there's a lot of the philosophy that you can actually, people can learn a lot, I think, in business. And again, I did, as cheesy as it sounds, I did use a bit of it in our staff appraisals, just giving people confidence to do things.
Yeah.
The message there is, especially for the youngsters, don't be afraid to fail. Whoa, strange message. Well, unless you fail at something, you don't know what your limits are. You don't know what you're capable of, do you?
Yeah.
So don't hold back. Don't be afraid to fail. And then the other phrase I've used is get comfortable being uncomfortable. What do you mean by that? Well, if you're comfortable, you're not pushing yourself hard enough. So get uncomfortable.
Get out. Yeah.
And then, by the way, then everything becomes easier, doesn't it? Because you've been uncomfortable. So the run-of-the-mill stuff is easy, but get comfortable being uncomfortable. So just push yourself a bit. So, yeah.
See, don't you want to have such an accountant as part of your team? And Mark mentioned that you have to have a strong team, and as a business owner, it's not only your internal team, but also the external team. And accountancy is one of the most important aspects of running any business. So that is why I really recommend Wagstaffs. I don't want to recommend you personally, because then everyone will be sort of flocking to you. Well, if you don't mind.
So a cloning experiment coming up. Yeah.
So if someone is interested in becoming a customer of yours, what should they do? Yeah,
so the first thing is obviously go and talk to someone. They may well have used us. So I think, go and do a bit of due diligence for yourself, check us out, have a look at our website, and then just pick up the phone. That's probably the best way to do it. Yes, you can send an email, but pick up the phone and let's get a meeting in the diary. Again, slight sales pitch coming on, but the first meeting we do is always free of charge. Just see how we can help, and more importantly, do you like what you see?
Yeah, I think again, I'm a customer, so Mark doesn't have to make this sales pitch, because I know from my experience that this is the best company to work for. I'm not over-exaggerating, I'm honestly saying how things are. So
but I think it's an important thing, and I've said this to people, is that in an accountancy, in our job, it's a trusted advisor role. And I've always sort of thought, unless you like someone, you're not going to trust them. So I think the first thing is do business with someone you like. I think the rest is then easy, because it's taken as a given that you've got the technical know-how, and you've got a good network of people that could support. So there may well be some sophisticated things around the edges. Look, we're a general practice. We're not a high specialist tax practice, but we have tax specialisms and we know people as well, so we can do it. So I think we can compete with the big boys. We're part of an international association as well, which has been good for us, for both inward and outward referrals. So we can offer the big boy service at a local level. Yeah. So we're competitive on price, but tip top on service, and you get continuity. So the big thing that a lot of the larger accountancy practices will always do, you won't have the same people looking after you, and you can never get hold of the partner. Yeah. So our view was, again, get the basics right, be there for your client, and keep your team, the same people. It's got to be, with a bit of continuity in there. Yeah. I think that's the recipe for it to work, hopefully. Touch wood. So far, so good, anyway.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Thanks, Mark, for your time.
That's all right.
And see you next time.